It's fall. The weather's getting cooler. We're all starting to make our winter vacation plans, and a lot of you are planning to go on a cruise. And who doesn't love a cruise? Who doesn't love heading out in the ocean in those floating cities, eating great food, drinking drinks, sitting by the pool, going to exotic locations and destinations and all that? But you know what? What comes with the purchase of your cruise boarding pass, your cruise ticket, comes the limitation in a lot of your rights. So if you want to learn more about what happens when you get hurt on a boat, on a ship, on a cruise ship specifically, stick around, and by the end of this video, you're going to know all the things you need to know to protect yourself before you go on your cruise. First and foremost, when you buy a cruise ticket or a boarding pass, you are agreeing to a lot of fine print in the form of a contract. And that contract, in the old days, it used to be written on the back of the actual boarding pass in fine print. You could barely read it, but your rights were identified right there on the back of that boarding pass, that cruise ship ticket. Now we all buy it online and you have to, I agree to your terms and click, click, click. Yeah, I don't even want to read it, whatever. And you press purchase. And you don't even know what you agreed to. You know even less than you used to when you went on a cruise. Well, let me tell you a little bit about what you're agreeing to. You are severely limiting your rights. Most cruise liners, all the famous ones, the Royal Caribbeans, the Norwegians, the Disney Cruise Lines, all those types of organizations, they have limitations when you buy the ticket contractually, and they're allowed to. And those limitations actually prescribe a reducing of the statute of limitations before you can bring a lawsuit. So what's the statute of limitations? That is the time under which you have to file your lawsuit before it is something you can't do anymore. Normally, if you are injured in a maritime case out on a cruise ship, you would have 3 years to bring that lawsuit. But the fine print, the terms and conditions that you agree to, the contract that you signed by buying that ticket tells you that you only have 1 year to file that lawsuit. And in a lot of cases, you have to tell them that you're going to file a lawsuit 6 months after the date of the incident, 6 months before the statute of limitations, that 1 year. So really, you've taken a 3-year window of time and you've reduced it down to 6 months. Is that fair? I would submit to you that it's not, but currently, the case law is still good that protects the cruise liners. They can, by contract, agree with you that you only have 6 months to notify them of your lawsuit and 1 year to file that lawsuit. So don't hesitate. Call a Proctor and Admiralty like me. Proctor and Admiralty is a designation by the Maritime Law Association that tells you that I know what I'm doing when it comes to personal injury maritime law. So call me and I can help you if you get hurt on a cruise ship. What else do you need to know? In that fine print on the ticket, there's usually a clause, a forum selection clause. What does that mean? It means that the cruise company gets you to agree that if you do file a lawsuit, you have to file it in a specific jurisdiction, a specific place. Normally, in the United States, that's in Florida. It could be the Southern District of the federal court system in Florida. It could be the Middle District. It could be any number of places, but normally it's in Florida. So, know your rights. You have 6 months to notify them. You have 1 year to file a lawsuit, and you have to file that lawsuit, generally speaking, in the jurisdiction that they want, using the law that they want, under the terms and the contract that you sign, maybe even unknowingly. Now, what do you do if you get hurt on a cruise ship? There's so many thousands of people on a cruise ship. These boats are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Famously, you see these side-by-side pictures running around social media of Titanic, the most famous cruise liner of all time, and today's boats. And you have today's cruise liners behind the Titanic, dwarfing it in size. And that's because they have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people on these ships. That's bigger than a lot of small towns. There's towns near me that have 5, 6, 7,000 people, and there's more than that on some of these cruise liners. The pool decks are too small. There's self-service food everywhere. There's so many different ways that you can get injured. A recent client of mine slipped and fell on deck because of self-service food areas. That type of thing happens all the time. Another client of mine was renting a handicapped scooter from a cruise liner, and the scooter malfunctioned and caused her an injury. That kind of thing can happen. It could be something more major, like the famous Costa Concordia incident where the captain was showboating and came too close to shore and ran aground, and the cruise ship was laying on its side famously and had to evacuate all the passengers. People got injured. There can be a whole host of different ways to get injured on a cruise ship. It can sink, it can run aground, people can get sick from airborne illness. There can be 1,000 different ways to get injured on a cruise, but know what your rights are. There are video cameras everywhere. As soon as practicable, call your Proctor and Admiralty, call your Maritime attorney. Put it in writing that you want them to preserve any video of you getting injured. You could have been injured on deck. Famously, recently, somebody was injured on one of the slides, the little water parks they have on board, and the slide broke and they fell off the side of the boat. That's not a small injury or small issue. There's all different ways, but what's most important to know is that there's so many witnesses. You or a loved one should gather the names and addresses and phone numbers of those witnesses so that they can testify on your behalf later. Take pictures of a defect if you fell on that defect. Ask the company in writing to preserve the actual footage of the incident from their surveillance cameras. There's usually, or there always actually, in my experience, is an onboard infirmary or a hospital of sorts. Go to that office. Put it on record that you were injured. Get whatever treatment they can offer you. And as soon as you get shoreside, follow up with a doctor on land. Your primary care doctor, an urgent care, or an ER hospital. Those are really important steps for when you get hurt on a cruise ship. And you also want to make sure that you hire the right kind of attorney. All personal injury cases are not made the same. If you are within 3 miles of the coastline, you have certain rights. If you're beyond 3 miles of the coastline, you have different rights. If it's a case in Admiralty, you might not have the right to a jury. If it's under a certain statute that's passed by Congress, you might have the right to a jury. It really depends, and there needs to be a specialist, like a Proctor and Admiralty, that handles your cruise ship injury case. So if you get injured on a cruise, which would be the worst, ruining a very expensive vacation, call me and I can help you. I'm a Proctor and Admiralty. If you want to learn more about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the personal injury industry, and specifically the maritime personal injury industry, watch more of my videos, subscribe to my page, and you'll learn more.